All right, what is up, y'all? All of our slayers and our demons out there. And this week we're going to be tackling episode 14. It's me, the demon that came out of your closet. Happy Fall Pride for those in Arizona, and also a happily belated National Coming Out Day. I'm sure there's a couple demons that we'll see that should come out in their canonography, or if you will, but that's just my opinion. I am, of course, joined by our folks, Emily.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Emily. Happy spooky season. We are barreling right along here. This is my favorite time of the year and a good time to snuggle up with a nice warm drink on the couch and watch some anime. So excited to talk today about episode 14 of Demon Slayer. Pass it off to Hannah.
Honestly, preach. That's all I've been wanting to do for the past few days. What's up, everyone? I'm Hannah, otherwise known as Inosuke's broken ribs.
Rip.
That's all I got.
Well, this episode really does open with a bang, or should I say a crack, really, right? We open to Tanjiro just blasting Inosuke right in the ribs. Honestly, a solid opener for an episode, if you ask me. But were you shocked by Tanjiro's approach here? And do you think that's within his character's framework, Hannah?
Yes. I love this episode. I was rewatching it and I actually texted you guys. I was like, I forgot how much this episode makes me laugh because Tanjiro is an absolute menace in this episode. Just wild. And I love it because up until now, we've seen all of the like righteous, adorable, wants to do the right thing at all times. And of course, he still thinks he's doing the right thing. And to a point, he is. But now we're seeing this side of him that is truly just like a menace. Like he punched a dude so hard that he broke his ribs. I mean, come on. I think it's really important to his character because it just makes him feel even more human. You know, he might have a little bit of an anger issue when it comes to his sister. Just throwing that out there.
Maybe. Emily, what you got?
I do think it's within his framework. It's really funny because I don't think we've really seen him lose his cool like this up until this point. So it's like you have this like character with this unending patience until these two knuckleheads show up and like cannot get along. And he used his head.
You can see throughout the episode, his patience just get less and less throughout this entire episode. I'm dying.
It's quite a motley crew that we have going on here now, but the gang's all here, so.
Honestly, I feel like Tanjiro definitely did just like that. You could see that wick burning, and it's like just kept continually getting shorter. But we also get to see Inosuke and how he fights. And it gives us more structure for what his character is like. In our quick skirmish between Tanjiro and Inosuke, when you watched it the first time, were you surprised by the way Inosuke fights and how Tanjiro responded, Emily?
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if surprised is the right word. We talked about it briefly in the last episode, but I said when he first shows up, I'm like, what is this guy's problem? Like, I do not like him. He's got like a bad attitude and he's too aggressive. So I don't know if I would say that I'm surprised by his fighting style. This episode's certainly much more entertained by it. He's a talented fighter, you can tell, but it's definitely a bit more rough around the edges and not necessarily as like finely honed as Tanjiro and Zenitsu. We'll find out a little bit more about that later on, I know, but it's just funny to see like the headstrong way that he kind of just like barges into every single situation, like regardless of whether this is like the initial skirmish with Tanjiro, or even like just a couple minutes later in this same episode as he's like helping like with the burial. Tanjiro's like, I don't think that you can handle it. He's like, oh, watch me. I absolutely can. I'm gonna fight you. And like that note carries throughout, honestly, the rest of his character arc forever, but particularly in this episode.
All right.
Master manipulator, let's just say.
Oh, yes.
Tanjiro is. I was not surprised really by the way Inosuke fights. I feel like everything that we've seen from him leading up to it kind of lends itself to being more animalistic and, like a boar. But I was surprised by his face. I thought that was an interesting turn that they took on the story of like him being this rough and shirtless dude with this boar mask, and then he has this very like dainty and attractive face. But I think they've just done such a great job at really exploring the character for such a short period of time that it made sense that he was fighting the way he was and that he was just like going at it and wanted to continue to fight even after he got freaking knocked out by Tanjiro by his head. It's just a wild episode, man. This episode went off the hinges.
I think we needed that though a little bit, because it's been like there have been a couple fleeting jokes here and there throughout, but we haven't seen anything goofy like this. And so it's kind of fun to just like let them be boys for a little while.
Yeah. And kind of in this skirmish, I thought it was really cute that they tucked him in with their Haoris. Like, that was so cute. And then he woke up and he was like, ah! Why? And it was so funny. I'm like, they're literally comforting you. Like, calm down.
He is wild.
I do
1,000%. Just sorry, Bryan. I was just gonna say 1,000% comic relief.
He is, yeah. I was gonna say I kind of relate to Inosuke because like people don't expect like this rainbow spitting voice to come out of my face, but here I am all the time, right? Surprising people constantly. Once this fight's over, though, Tanjiro has definitely become the mom of the group, right? How do you think he exemplifies that throughout the back half of the episode? And kind of what does it tell us about the future of this trio?
It's like I said earlier, his patience just gets thinner and thinner the entire episode, down to him like smacking Inosuke, or not Inosuke, but Zenitsu, because Zenitsu was just annoying him so much during the scene with Hisa, the lady at the house. And I feel like that's such a mom vibe, to just be so annoyed that you just start smacking people. And I'll skip over the part where he smacked him with the intention of knocking him out earlier in the episode. But it's such mom vibes, but at the same time, you get like him just being so annoyed with Zenitsu and so done with him. But then like Inosuke the entire time is trying to annoy him, but he's being super nice to him because it's so like new. And like you have both sides to Tanjiro, where it's like, oh, it's the nice boy side that we know and love. And then Zenitsu's getting the like savage Tanjiro that we're just getting to know. And it just makes for the perfect mom, honestly.
I feel like we've got like some like Reba vibes. Single mom who works 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops. Like we've got Tanjiro. And he is like I just absolutely love that for him, because he, if a little bit unwilling, he is still good at it. And he's like the glue that holds them together. He's got to make sure that like Zenitsu behaves, because Zenitsu keeps like saying all kinds of out-of-pocket stuff to this poor old woman that's trying to help them. And he's like smacking him upside the head. He's trying to make sure Inosuke doesn't smack everybody else upside the head. He's like trying to like, you need to eat your food. You need to go to bed. If somebody doesn't come help me clean this goddamn kitchen right now, I'm gonna lose my mind. Like, and go say goodnight to your sister. Doesn't go in the box.
He really like he exemplifies how like each person needs to be mothered differently, you know, like Inosuke needs that like, okay, like you can eat what you want, Inosuke, like to prove that he can be kind, but then Zenitsu needs to just be like smacked upside the head, which like mom shouldn't do that. I'll just throw that out there. But you know, the metaphor of like just be like, come on, dude, like and oh my god, Tanjiro even was sarcastic in this episode with his crow, like when his crow was like, you can rest here now, you are injured. And he's like, I fought like 3 battles after I broke my leg and injured my rib, and now I can rest. Like, and then the crow just goes, K.
That sick little cackle that
Tanjiro was a menace, an absolute menace this entire episode, but in all the right ways.
I mean, oh, sorry. Just like it's again the patience wearing thin, and he's like, "I'm tired. I'm hungry too. You two need to get it together so that I can maybe sit down, but I can't relax until you two relax." And then maybe I'm gonna take a nice fat nap because I have like multiple broken bones, internal bleeding, like all the things we do for the people that we love.
I will turn this group around and there will be cake pops for no one. Okay.
Real. Not the cake pops.
Right. But kind of going forward, right? We've talked about filler in episodes from other anime before, but I don't think we've really touched on Demon Slayer fillers. How do you guys feel about this episode overall? And do you think it's a purposeful filler or is it just filler?
I think that Demon Slayer has handled filler really, really well so far. And this, I think, is drawn out a bit, but I'd have to go back and look at the manga. I haven't read these chapters, admittedly, in a while. But I want to say that this isn't something that is completely omitted from the original story. I don't think that it's, again, as drawn out as this, but I know that there are definitely periods throughout the comic where there needs to be like these periods of rest, because otherwise, like, these are still like very human bodies, and they've made that evident as well. They're like, what's so impressive about the demon slayers is that they can't just regenerate the way that the demons can. They're really trying to fight them with human bodies that are much more susceptible to pain and injury. So there needs to be periods of rest in between. So I think that this is kind of like demonstrating that, like, oh, like they do actually need some time here to heal a bit, to prepare for the next fight. And then relationship building too. We've got like a couple different relationships developed here. Obviously, we get like our silly boys on the road, getting a little bit of like bonding time with each other. But I mentioned the old lady, and even though she's not necessarily like a massively recurrent character, they bring up this relationship of like, oh, this was a family. You can tell like from the crest that's on the door that this was somebody that the Demon Slayer Corps has helped in the past. And so because of that, this is the relationship that's come forward, is like this family almost owes like a debt to the Demon Slayer Corps. And so they're going to take in the Demon Slayers whenever they can to help make sure that they get that rest and recovery time. So I think it's intentional. I think it's purposeful. And I also think it gives us, again, some much needed comic relief before we kind of head into what the next more action-packed arc is going to be.
Yeah, I think Demon Slayer, agreed, handles filler very well. I think this episode, while it's very fillery and maybe might seem like it stretches it out a little bit long, I found myself thoroughly enjoying this episode as much as I love the episodes that have a lot of action in it, because we're getting character development, we're getting character introductions, we're getting these comedic moments that we haven't gotten to see a ton of yet, that I think Demon Slayer does so well at, is having those comedic moments, unlike, Attack on Titan.
There's humor there.
Not much.
I saw a joke. Okay.
A joke.
In the first 2 seasons in some episode.
Yeah, there's one joke, and it's revolved around Sasha.
Potato head. I'm done. That girl cracks me up. Nonetheless, sorry.
Tangent. But I think filler episodes are still important. Like Emily said, like the next arc is pretty big. This is going to be the biggest arc of the season. It's one that goes like 6 or 7 episodes, I think, rather than like the 1 to 2 that we've had so far. There's going to be a lot more emotions involved with like the arc to come. So it's really good that we're getting this moment to heal, rest, and have some comedic relief. And it still does a good job at developing things. We're learning about these new characters that just got introduced finally, and we're seeing Tanjiro be a little bit different than he normally is. So I think they've done a really good job at it, and I think it's very purposeful because of that.
Yeah, I really also agree, but I think this filler is really nice just because you can tell that there's like something coming out of this, right? Like they're in this place, and while yes, it doesn't relate to like the overall arc of like Tanjiro versus Muzan, right? That we like kind of have set in our heads because he knows he wants to fight him one day. Like this is leading towards right what comes after their recovery and like their next battle. So I do think that's a really interesting piece of a way to take filler and make it useful, or at least make it relevant, right?
And it's only an episode long, so
Exactly.
maybe an episode and a half. The next one, you know, we kind of dive more into the Nezuko and Zenitsu thing, but it doesn't just drag on like certain other shonen animes that love to do full seasons of filler. So
That's true. It's true.
Naruto.
I listen, and I love Naruto. I love Naruto, but I would never recommend personally. Maybe this is my most controversial take on the show so far, but I would never recommend that somebody watch the full version with all the fillers. Some of them, yes, but there is a list. But there's a difference, I think, between like filler that is just like studios making decisions versus something that's clearly very informed by the original intention of the creator of the story. And so some of them, you know, amongst all those like hundreds of filler episodes, some of them are actually really good, I think, because they do fall more in line. And Demon Slayer is very intentional with which ones they choose to elaborate on. And I'd have to do a little bit more research, but I can't imagine that, you know, the author of the manga is not involved at least a little bit in this process, because they mentioned themselves that they felt a little bit rushed through some parts of it because they have very strict deadlines. And because, again, it just feels so intentional. There's a filler that's coming up a little bit later that I think was absolutely perfect. We'll talk about that soon. But I'm hopeful that they'll keep going with some of that. I think the Demon Slayer could really benefit from some really intentional filler episodes like the ones that we've seen. So,
as someone who is watching all of Naruto straight through, fillers included, I will share Emily's sentiment. Unless you've got the heart for it, don't go for it. There are some purposeful episodes where, you know, it kind of shows the downstream effect of Naruto's life and some of those things, which I think is really interesting. And I hope we get to see some of that. I know that there's some additions, hopefully, or correct me if I'm wrong, but like the manga, there were some things in season 2 that were kind of added in as some of those fillers and such. And so hopefully we get to see more of this context, because that character building is going to be really nice. Like manga is one thing, it's great. When I was having this conversation with someone at my place of employment the other day, and we were talking about how like manga is great, but like when you see that animated, it's just something about the sound, the sight. Like everything coming together at once, it'll hit so hard, and those laughs will just amplify those cries later on in the world.
Absolutely. And there's another very well-known shonen anime that's very popular that loves to do not just filler episodes, but recap episodes where we get an episode we already saw in the form of a conversation. You know, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, let's keep the story moving.
You know, something I'd rather see a filler episode that's just goofy and off the walls, I think, and like not my favorite obviously are the intentional ones that feel really in line with the rest of the story that's canon, so that if you hadn't read it, you wouldn't know, kind of thing. Those are my favorites, but I'd still rather see something that's just goofy and off the walls than a recap episode. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I really do not like those.
Imagine waiting like a whole week for a new episode, and you have to wait a whole week after that for another episode, but the episode that you get is a literal recap that you've already seen.
Oh my god, you want to know what? That makes me think of Legend of Korra in the Mako episode where he's helping the Prince of the Earth Kingdom, and he's like, wait, so you had a girlfriend and then she broke up with you, and now you went with this other girl and now they're trying to date? Oh.
Okay, but no joke, that recap episode, what was it, in season 4, was actually really well done. Like, I actually enjoyed it because it was funny how they recapped.
Fair.
But still a recap episode.
Well, of course, we come full circle right to our favorite moments of the show. I'm going to start with my favorite moments was the little sleepover they had. I was dying. It was so cute. Right, they all snuggled up, and it was like a little small brotherhood. And of course, right, we end the episode with Zenitsu literally chasing Tanjiro around their room for, you know, the Nezuko joke that is now started. And he's like, how could you have such a beautiful girl with you and not tell me?
I was screaming at the TV telling Tanjiro, Just tell him it's your sister. I don't understand why you can't just shout, it's my sister.
It's his mother's name.
Oh my gosh.
That's so good.
Oh Lord. I touched on this earlier. My favorite moment is, you're gonna judge me, but it's when Tanjiro literally knocks Zenitsu out because he's so annoyed with him. Like full on purposefully knocks him out with the like hand swipe on the neck because he's like being annoying with those kids. And Tanjiro just has had it with him begging Soichi to stay because he thinks that he's the one who slayed the demon. And he's like, he doesn't want to stay, but I want him. Yeah. And knocks him out. And it's such a savage move by him. Like he is just annoyed with him so much so that he knocks him out. I was belly laughing and rewatched it 3 times.
I'm glad that we're like all on the same page about like slapstick humor can be really dumb, but it's some of my favorite humor that exists. Like it's just so off the walls. And I think it's funny somehow that we all like agreed on like slightly different parts of this slapstick comedy, because my favorite part is when Inosuke is getting annoyed and he's like all like man spread like on the little bed thing, and then he's like annoyed that they're like not paying enough attention to him, that Tanjiro's not, but then he gets mad at Zenitsu for just being there, and he like launches the pillow at him for no reason. He's just like minding his business, and like that scream sound that he lets out is so funny. So by far one of my favorite comedic moments probably in the entire show so far.
His giant knot on his head that he reveals. This hurts more than my ribs.
All of my favorite like laugh out loud moments between the anime and the manga all have Inosuke in them. Like,
yes. Also, some of sorry, go ahead, Bryan.
You're good. He's just a funny guy.
Some of the most emotional moments for me is also involving Inosuke, because
that's true.
What's wild is like this friendship that is blossoming seems so dysfunctional and so wild, but it is going to turn into the most beautiful friendship I've ever seen. Like one of my favorite trios ever to exist in all media.
Literally.
Just wild.
One other thing I just want to bring up before we kind of go out of this is that I really also enjoyed Inosuke's flexibility. I wasn't expecting that from him, from his fighting style. I know we kind of like hella backtracked here, but one thing I was not expecting him to be able to do was that the contortionist thing, and Tanjiro was like, stop doing that. That's weird. That's not hurt. Like he's just staring at you like that was great.
I think at the end of the day, he's just a show off.
Very.
100%.
Also,
look what I can do.
Another thing, I was watching a YouTube short and someone was analyzing how effective Inosuke's breathing forms are. And apparently they're pretty close to actual sword fighting with his third fang decapitation, right? And I was like, damn, apparently like a lot of these forms are actually really informed, if you will. This is so stupid.
Bryan, you always spout the greatest things. I don't know how your
good.
Brain works.
Neither do I.
Bryan
The
is the
machinations of my mind are an enigma.
Exactly.
Let's be real. Bryan is actually the Inosuke of our group, just spouting out comedy. I'm the Zenitsu. I won't even pretend I'm Tanjiro. Emily's Tanjiro.
I don't know. I mean, actually,
I'm like, I don't know who I would initially. I know who I like the best. I don't know who I would describe myself as, though. I feel like maybe I'm the what's his name? I am bad at this part sometimes, guys. I'm sorry. The head of the Demon Slayer Corps.
Ubuyashiki.
Ubuyashiki. That's the one. I feel like sometimes that's me. Just like quiet, minding my business in my house. Frail. Sick sometimes.
oh no!
Emily.
Oh my god.
No, if I'm one character, like the one that I get roasted for in my house all the time is not from Demon Slayer, but I know that you both are familiar with My Hero Academia, and it's mostly well liked in our household as well. And everybody tells me that I'm Ida. I'm like, they're right.
No,
Like, I know
no,
that
you're
they're
not
right.
Ida.
Like class president.
That's true.
Like, it's me.
Wait,
I know.
that's the really, really smart girl, right?
No,
Or
it's
is
the
that-
guy with the glasses and the black hair that's like the class president. I'm like, that is me. Like that. He's like, students, we must assemble.
We must assemble.
And focus. We have an assignment due. And I'm like, I know that that's me. They don't need to say it so loud.
Oh my god. That's hilarious. I kind of agree, but I think in a good way at least.
I like him. He's a good boy. I just feel called out.
Oh.
I feel like I'm more like Midoriya than I am like Tanjiro, because I think Midoriya at the end of the day, like his main motives is a little bit more selfish than Tanjiro, and I definitely have some selfish little bits to my personality. So I like to say that I'm like Tanjiro, but I'm more like Midoriya. I'm just trying to be like a sweet person and be friends with everyone and be selfless, but at the end of the day, my main goal in life is to just like be famous. So, you know.
Listen,
You should
I
talk
call
to
myself
Kanye
out.
West. He made that girl famous.
we are not talking about Kanye right now. I'm closing that. I am closing that door right now on behalf of all my
America.
fellow Jewish weebs out there. I'm sorry, and we are ignoring him. So
We sure are. We sure are not endorsing any sort of Semitism.
no Semitism.
I mean, we gotta say it. Like, unless you're saying you're not for it, it's the assumption that you are allowing it. So I feel
That's
like
true.
it's a non-flashy behavior, as we described.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That guy's a piece of work. Anyway,
All right, Bryan,
Yeah.
what character are you most like that you think you are?
From My Hero. Oh god.
Or just
Oh.
anything in general?
You know what? I yeah, I think I'm gonna go with I don't know. I think you guys haven't watched Kakegurui, so I don't think you guys will understand this as much, but I'm gonna say Yumiko Habami. Reason being is because she is, first off, not a very violent person, which I think a lot of anime characters tend to resort to violence, but she really doesn't. I'm a lot more strategic, and I like to think mindly, if you will, but she's very good at cornering her opponents psychologically, and she's never lost her cool, even in the midst of becoming what's essentially like a school slave. She never lost her cool, and she never had a doubt in her mind. She actually remained a slave for a little bit because she's like, fuck it, I want to fuck the system. And so I think it's a really interesting dynamic that she brings, but she's also goofy and bonkers most of the time. She's like, oh, let's bet who's gonna buy me dessert today, and I'm like, god damn, if that ain't me.
I love it. I think we should come every week with a new character that we think that we're like.
Let's
Oh
do
my
it.
god, yes, new segment.
New segment.
New segment. Which character this week?
All right, well, do you guys got anything else for this episode?
It's time to get ready for the best arc of the season.
And we're approaching the end already.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of crazy. We still have a little ways to go. I think we're a little past the halfway mark, but still, I feel like it's going to feel like it moves fast because it does.
It does, for sure.
All right, well, that's all we got for today. So you guys know how this works, right? We love to hear from you guys. So if you guys want to hit us up on Instagram, follow us on our TikTok. We're all at Hashira Half Hour. We do have lots of jokes on there. Most recently, some Demon Slayer family jokes. You can see our messy families on there. Of course, always let us know if there's something you want us to discuss on the show. If you want to support us, go ahead, click that like, hit that follow button, and we'll see you guys next week, okay? Umai.
Umai.